Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Coleman. Joining me right now is Giannis Shanez. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 2-0 victory against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park on Saturday. Giannis, I want to just not waste any more time. I'm excited to talk about this. How are you doing? What are your thoughts about this huge victory for Fulham?
Feeling good, especially we didn't obviously have a chat. We've not chatted since we knocked off those bus stop boys.
Yep.
What a win!
You could talk about that too if you'd like.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely, gentlemen, gyms. You can go home now.
I love that.
That was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, off you go. That was brilliant win, emotional win for sure. No, it's a good win. I had a feeling we were going to win. I mean, they had no Wharton, no Eze.
Yeah.
They've got some injuries, obviously, down at Selhurst Park, but we're playing with a lot of confidence, and unbelievably, we're seventh, and we've got Wolves. We've got Wolves next, and then we've got Tottenham away, and let's not forget Tottenham, as we're doing this show, got knocked off by Ipswich.
Absolutely, Giannis.
Absolutely. So, but it was a good win yesterday, and we scored two. We had two disallowed.
Yep. We're going to be talking about that.
Yeah, it could have been a rout, but I'll take the 3 points and yet another international break.
Giannis, you know how I feel about these international breaks, especially when Fulham are playing well off of two massive victories. Now we have an international break, but I'll just share my opening thoughts. I actually did my 5 takeaways, which actually you can watch or listen to if you're a paid member on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Please do check that out if you've not become a member. But I just want to just share this with you. And I'm glad that you mentioned the injuries to Crystal Palace. I'm going to make the argument that even if those players play, I still think Fulham win this match because of the way that they're playing, the way that they're set up, the way that the confidence that they had. I'm glad that you talked about the victory on Monday. I have a feeling it wouldn't have been as dominant, but I think they would have won this match anyways, just by how Fulham are playing. And what's interesting about this, and I just want to get your thoughts as we break down this match, and we'll be going through the good, the bad, and who won the coaching battle coming up next. But what I want to just break down to you is that when I look at the last 3 matches, I have found like an interesting commonality between the 3 of them, and they are this: the dominating performances against Everton. I'm just talking about the performance, not the result. The dominating performance against Brentford, and now we have followed that up with a dominating performance against Crystal Palace. What I mean is that we are controlling the play instead of basically beating a team on the break, being in control, but we are forcing our style on the opposition. So I want to get your thoughts on that, because I think that is something that we can really build on moving forward. That, I think, is what's different recently.
Yeah, we're passing the ball a lot quicker. I think everything we're doing is with a little bit more real time, a little bit more pace, especially yesterday against Palace. First half, I thought we were excellent. They really weren't in it until last 10 minutes. They started to come back into it, and then of course, sometimes it's not the goals you score; it's the timing of the goals, and that Jimenez pass to Smith Rowe was a superb pass, superb finish. I think Henderson probably won that one back, but who cares? It was the timing was good. We got the lead, and that was good. And going out at 1-0, I didn't think there was going to be any other team in it. I was just a bit worried that we, like the Danny Ings mess against West Ham and obviously Beto against Everton, they were going to sneak up on us. But they reminded me, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, there was, I'm just trying to think here, was it a couple of years ago? Yeah, we had, it was the World Cup, and we first came back, we beat them 3-0. And then they looked really disorganized and messy. They didn't look disorganized. We just ran roughshod off them.
Exactly.
That was
it. I totally agree, Giannis. And we're going to talk a little bit about that throughout the show, and obviously in the next session, because I'm going to talk about who won the coaching battle. But now let's move on. I've done this for the last few weeks. I just think that this is a different way to really talk about the match before we break down both halves. Right. I call it the good, the bad, and who won the coaching battle. So the good, Giannis, can be a player. It can be something in the game. Same thing with the bad. I know something I'm going to be talking about in regards to bad that is not about a player. It actually has to do with decision. And then who won the coaching bout. So let's start with a good. Give me one good thing that you really took out of this match, and then I'll share one myself.
It was fun to watch actually both Smith Rowe and Nelson play at the moment.
Okay.
And it's tough on, I don't think Trail has done badly by any means. And then, of course, the arguments, well, why doesn't Harry Wilson start? Great point. Who gives up his place? That's your problem right now. So I thought Smith Rowe was excellent yesterday. I thought Nelson was. They say don't fall in love with lone players.
I know.
This is going to be a tricky one because he's playing very well. Do we put a bid in for him in the year? No, it's a long way.
I do, Giannis.
I'd like to. I don't know how much he's going to come. Could we get him for about? We get him for about the same price as Smith Rowe, 28 to 30 million.
Yep.
We can do it. I mean, these games are important because 18 points off 11 games, with some winnable games coming up, we could end up we could be in the top 6. And I was looking at the Forest game today.
Yep.
And of course, we were the only team that had beaten them this year, and I could see why we'd beaten them. I think Forest have been playing well, but they came up against a team who really showed a lot of new in the second half, which is something that Newcastle didn't do against us. So in terms of that, back to the good, Nelson and Smith Rowe for me.
Okay. I'm going to add another player. I'm going to tell you right now, he's my man of the match, and I know many are going to talk about Smith Rowe. I'm just going to share this with you, Giannis. I think Alex Iwobi's the man of the match, and he ran the show. Not just his passing, really, he was so involved in everything that Fulham did. I know Smith Rowe really was the catalyst in so many other things, but for me, if you look at the passes this guy made and how he controlled everything, I think Alex Iwobi was fantastic. I want to get your thoughts on Iwobi.
He was very, very good yesterday. He was very, very good. He looked half a yard quicker. Maybe it was the confidence of Monday night. I mean, the delirium. There's 2 ways you can react. I mean, you could be like that lot that to give them credit, reacted well, beating Bournemouth yesterday.
Right.
Or you could have us where we're just on the huge high of the win, local derby. And I think we've got something like 6 consecutive games in the capital, which is
that's
brilliant,
crazy.
Yeah. But it's brilliant. So we went there and we attacked from the first minute. And Iwobi was a really, really big part of that. I mean, it's the midfield as a whole. I thought played well. I think you've got to give a mention as well to Sander Berger.
I was just going to mention him, but go ahead.
He's grown in his role since Lukic has been off. There's going to be some interesting decisions if Berger carries on playing like this. When Lukic is fit, do you find a way for both of them to be in the lineup? I thought Pereira had a very good game yesterday. So, I think it's I think it's these are good decisions for Marco to have. But I did think Iwobi was very good yesterday.
Okay, I'm going to share this from our friend Black, White, and Fred. If ESR is the bullet, Iwobi is the gun. I think I understand where he's going on that.
That's a good point.
Very good point. I'm going to share this from our friend Gary D. He says, good evening, gents. Results never in doubt yesterday. We went to Palace expecting to win. The mindset has totally changed at the club. Giannis, I'm going to mention that as another good. I'm glad that Gary said this because I was talking to Tony Gold about this, and we were talking about the mentality. He said the mentality is completely different, Giannis, from what we're accustomed to. I'm going to say it right now. These players are acting like they deserve to be where they are, and they do deserve it. But I just think it's a different mentality, a winning mentality. Maybe some of it comes from their prior clubs with several of these players.
Yeah.
But I think a good thing is the mindset, the mentality. I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, they're showing up expecting to get a result, to put in a good performance. And that's the way you got to do it. I mean, you're going to have the odd game like the game up at the City Ground last year. We were 3 goals down in 20 minutes. But you want that level of consistency. And this year, if I look at all the games that we've played, there isn't one game where I could honestly say has been disappointing. We've had disappointing endings,
Yep.
but we've not had disappointing performances per se. Even went to City and and played. I thought really well to just lose 3-2. The Villa game,
So the Villa game's the only one I'm thinking of, Giannis.
but
But
even then we didn't play badly, and
no,
we didn't. I mean, we just unfortunately we lost. We took the lead again and we fell asleep. Bam, 2-1. Then Anderson gets sent off, and then Diop comes on. You
yep,
got an own goal and da da da. But then next game, Diop comes in and does a good job. So I mean, overall, the performances have been consistent, which is what you want. And with London derbies coming up, we have to play Spurs and that lot, Chelsea and
yep.
Arsenal. And we've got nothing to fear from any of these teams. Just
Absolutely not, Giannis.
go out and give it a go.
I totally agree, Giannis. I'm going to share a couple more comments. This is from our friend Colm. Says there's a few players that could be man of the match, but for me, it has to be Iwobi, so he agrees with me. We'll talk about man of the match at the end. Giannis, I want to get your thoughts on this from our friend Gary Cooper. Is Harry Wilson the best super sub ever? Your thoughts?
Best super sub I've
Yeah.
ever.
How about you? Who's the
Not
best super
not.
sub?
I would say there was a fella that played for Liverpool many years ago, and I think some of our fans will remember him, David Fairclough. They used to get the super sub was named after him because every time he came off the bench, the bugger would score. He wasn't good enough to play on what was a fantastic Liverpool side, but he was good enough to come on and cause absolute mayhem. Someone like a latter day, I suppose, Harvey Barnes,
Okay.
but better. But David Fairclough was a very good player. But Wilson is in. He scored one. He could have scored a second. Just he's in marvelous form at the moment, which is great.
Absolutely, Giannis. I want to share this from Black, White, and Fred. It says, as much as we haven't really played a bad game, don't think we have come close to hitting our best yet either. Giannis, I would agree with that. I want to get your thoughts on what our friend here has shared because this also goes to the mentality and also the fact that I don't even think Smith Rowe is at his zenith yet. I don't think he has reached his heights. And I don't think Reese Nelson either. We have Berga just settling in. Like you said, now we have an issue when Lukic comes back, a good problem to have. We got all these things going on, Giannis, which I think has proven to me that my prediction at the beginning of the season, I know many people laughed at me last season when I predicted seventh, and I followed it up this season. But this season, I truly believe is legitimate, Giannis. So I want to get your thoughts about that. We just haven't even hit our stride yet, Giannis. Hey, Giannis, I'm not hearing you. Probably we're having a little bit of an issue.
Oh,
I
it's
don't know.
because I had a technical difficulty because the battery was running out. I don't think we've quite hit the strides yet, but I think we're playing well enough to get points in every game, and that's
Okay.
ultimately what you want. And we're going to have games where we're going to nick it. We're going to play well enough to win, but not win. We're not going to play well enough to win, but get a draw or nick it.
Yeah.
But I do think that as our team progresses, we're going to get better. Let's not forget we've got a very safe pair of hands at the back.
That's right.
Let's not forget that save off Calveo on Monday night. That as much as anything, that save was magnificent because of the timing of it. Can you imagine if he'd scored then, and just the headlines that Wilson had got that wonder goal, and then all of a sudden an old Fulham boy goes and does it. We're only as good as our goalkeeping in many ways, and our back four is very solid. The midfield looks good, but we're growing into the season. We're not at our peak yet, and we've got the Christmas schedule is going to be very busy. And I know a lot of fans were disappointed when we got knocked out by Preston in the Carabao Boo Boo, but nonetheless, it means we can focus on the league, and that's fine. And I'm excited for what's going to come. The Wolves game is going to be really interesting because the table is setting up. We could be in the top four. I'm not gonna.
That's crazy, Giannis, but you're right.
I won't rail on Wolves because I think Wolves are a better side than their table shows. But we could be fourth, and could be fourth going to play Tottenham away. Where if Ipswich can go there and get a result, then we definitely can. So It's a shame you said it earlier about it's really, really unfortunate that we've got the
It
international.
is.
Yeah, it's a killer, but it's the same for all the teams. We've just got to try and use that whatever momentum. Hope we don't get any injuries, and hopefully we can. We're in good shape when we play Wolves at home in a couple of weeks.
Okay, excellent stuff. I got so many comments, so please feel free to keep sharing your comments. This is from our friend Chris Goodwin, who's a Liverpool supporter, but always is in to watch our show. So thank you, Chris. Evening Wrestling. Great to see Giannis on screen. It is great to see Giannis
And I
on
mentioned
screen.
Liverpool. I mentioned Liverpool. I mentioned David
You, d-
Fairclough.
you
I
did.
certainly did.
His ears must have been ringing because
Yeah.
now Chris is there. That's so funny. All right. Another comment from Gary D. This is one that I've heard a great deal. I want to get your thoughts on. We need one player to complete the jigsaw, which is a center forward. Hopefully, we can get one in January. Your thoughts, Giannis?
Ooh,
What do you do about that?
I don't think I think we need to see a few more games. I really like the work that Raul is doing up front. His work rate is excellent.
Yep.
And you and I live on this side of the pond, so we've seen the damage that he's caused in
Oh,
Mexican shirt. He's a menace. His first touch, his ability in the air, his hold up play is excellent. Um, just for his work rate alone, he's doing so much up front. Where we get a striker from, well, not unless we get a loanee from somewhere. But then again, to fall in love with loanees, it's a tricky one. For example, when I was a coach, um, if I called players up from a younger age group, I didn't tend
yep.
to start them. And I look at loan players as call ups, but they're call ups for the whole season. So some fans could argue, why don't we show loyalty? Going back to someone like a Harry Wilson, with as an example, Harry Wilson should start because he is there. He's a Fulham player as opposed to a loanee from Arsenal.
Right.
Yes, but then there's this other school of thought that would suggest, well, you got to pick what's your best 11, and the best 11 at the moment um, has Nelson. But
Right.
overall, it's looking good for the future at the moment.
Totally agree there, Giannis. Okay. So let's move on. Let's actually go right now to the bad. I'll get us going. I want to talk about a couple of bad things. But the reason why I wanted to go first, and I want to get anything bad from you, I will be talking about VAR as one of my bad. But I want to talk about this because it kind of goes into my thought process when I talk about bad. Maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit, but I think we should look at the good, the bad, and also talk about the coaching battle. So this is from Colin Bugler.
Mm.
The good, the interplay between Nelson and Smith Rowe is very good. The bad, Nelson's final decision making could be better. I agree with this, Giannis. I want to get your thoughts. I want to talk a little bit about Nelson. I think that he has everything going for them. Maybe the decision making, maybe some of the shots could have been just a little bit better. I want to get your thoughts. I'm putting that in the bad category, but is there really a lot of bad? But this is something I just thought we should discuss.
I think it's tricky because Nelson had so little game time for Arsenal last year. And I think that he needs more playing time. I think you're going to see what he can do the more playing time he gets. You, for
Okay.
example, beginning to see Smith Rowe really evolve
Absolutely.
into the role. I think the same for Nelson. It's going to take some time because it's a Fulham. The Fulham systems are just a slightly different from Arsenal. But then it goes back to an argument, though. I think his decision making is a bit iffy at times. But then
Yep.
you could then go back to, well, why invest so much time on developing a player who isn't even yours when you've got a Harry Wilson, you've got an
That's true.
Adama Traore, who are Fulham players that you
Right.
could use, but it's a minor thing. The VAR one is a little bit more pronounced.
Yes, let's go there, Giannis. I want to talk about the Smith Rowe disallowed goal. Now, I've watched this many times, okay? This is millimeters, Giannis. So I've been a proponent of VAR, but I think at some point they need to tweak it a little bit when you have situations that are just this close. I want to get your thoughts on this decision that took away a goal from Smith Rowe.
It's going to come down to micrometers in the end. This is how fine the lines are. There was a goal today by Kai Havertz that I thought was against Chelsea, which I thought was very, very, very tight. Yeah, I but the angles that they had him offside. I didn't like the call. It would have put the game to bed at that point. But tweaking it, yeah, I think it's probably an idea because I think the margins are becoming too tight.
Just way
And
too tight, Giannis.
yes, yeah,
That's my only point because it's funny. The broadcast I watched talked about, well, we want goals, and if you have a situation like this when it's really even, there really isn't a lot of. There's really no advantage to the player here, to Smith Rowe, because he's even. We're talking millimeters, so that's where I think
exactly,
maybe it's time to tweak it a little bit. But I wanted to just mention that.
exactly.
Anything else you would put in the bag category before we talk about the coaches?
I hate the Palace jerseys, but that's just
Well,
another
there
matter.
you go.
Yeah,
Okay, we
I
could
just
throw that in.
I think they're vertigo inducing. That's just my thinking. I mean, if you remember, the fans out there remember the Palace jerseys in the '60s were white, sky blue, and I think something like maroon vertical stripes. Then they went to white, and then they went diagonal red and blue, and then they went back to that a couple of years ago as well. So usually they've got nice, and then they've
Yeah.
done many years of red and blue stripes. But this one look like they're hazy, phasey, like you're on
Yep.
acid.
Yep.
And no, they're not. It's not. No, no. It's one of the worst kits in the Premier League. Sorry, Palace fans, if you're watching, but no, it's great club and
Yeah.
very
I
good
have a lot of
stadium
respect for Crystal Palace.
for sure. But
Yeah.
their jerseys have got it. Yeah, but it's going to look very different next year anyway because they changed
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely, Giannis. Okay, so let's go to the coaching battle. And in this time that I want to talk about it, you've already talked about it. And listen, I know Glasner's an excellent manager, and he really had his hands full, not just with playing against Fulham and Marco Silva setting up Fulham. He was dealing with all these injuries and also the suspension to Will Hughes. So he had a lot
Yeah,
to
I will use. Yeah.
ponder, and he made some changes, and he tried to change things up a little bit. It didn't really come off, honestly, but I got to give him credit for trying under the circumstances he was dealing with. However, in my opinion, there's only one winner, and it's Marco, because he set his team up. His team played against a formation that they have struggled in the past. And the way that they played was just phenomenal. They really beat this formation, which I've seen time and time again give them fits. So for me, it's Marco all the way. I want to get your thoughts on the coaching battle. And do you agree with me that Marco won this?
Yeah, I think Marco won it, and I thought that Glasner overthought it.
Yeah.
And when I mean overthought that, I mean you put Gay, you put your best defender in the middle
Right.
with a
Right. Why is he
21-year-old
doing
kid.
that?
Yeah,
Right.
with the 21-year-old kid Devaney, who I thought played very well for Palace, and especially as it was his debut. But you're playing with that back three. I actually would have put Lacroix right back and put Chalobah in the middle, but
Okay.
they flipped the roles, and he was trying to outthink what we were trying to do. We were going to play
Exactly.
and 4-2-3-1 was going to be what we were going to do. They reverted to a 3-4-2-1, and to me, it didn't look right. Gahey just doesn't have the passing range, if anything else.
Yep.
I was surprised someone like a Schlupp didn't start. And the other thing, because I've got one colleague at work who's I think I've mentioned to you. She's a diehard Palace fan. Goes over for
Yep.
several games a year. Goes over the summer tours, and she was talking to me in the week, um, rather prophetically. She said, "Well, if Kamada starts, you're bound to win because he's useless." And of course, I hadn't heard enough a lot about him, but
Yeah.
but he was shocking. And then
Yeah,
that
he
challenge
was.
from Tete, he was terrible. He was
Yeah.
one of the worst Palace players I've seen for a long, long time. And that challenge on Tete,
Oh,
he
we're going to
probably
talk
wasn't.
about it.
Yeah, awful. I mean, it's bad when the Palace players aren't even debating. They're almost
Oh, they
looking
knew.
and they knew it was a really bad challenge.
Yeah.
But something's fundamentally wrong with Crystal Palace Football Club. because you got okay. You knew that Elise was going to be gone in the summer. I think Eze was a possibility. Eze stuck around, but the Anderson transfer really does baffle me. It baffled me because it made a London rival a significantly better team.
I'm
It's
glad that you mentioned that.
yeah,
Keep going, Giannis. Why?
significantly weaken what they do, and they don't. Their results are not. They're struggling. They're they're struggling. And forget the. I know they got no Will Hughes, no Walton, no
Yep.
Eze, but they're struggling. They're they I don't know how much longer Glaston's going to have. Who knows? We might have there might be another call out from Mr. Hodgson.
That would be crazy. But Giannis, I'm glad that you brought that up. I've always been fascinated with this. I'm one that would not want to make a rival better. Why would you do that? But they did this, right? I think you got to put Palace first. Like I would always say, put Fulham first. And I know, Chris, you're watching, but I wouldn't give you any other players right now. Liverpool don't get any more Fulham players. I'm done. We're giving
No.
you players, Chris. Enough. You ruined Fabio Carvalho. Enough. Okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah. And
I
you
had
can
to
have,
throw that out there.
and if you want Anthony Robinson, you can have him, but you can have him for 100 million and not a penny less.
There you go. There you go, Giannis. All
That's
right.
going to be. Hey, when we play Liverpool, Liverpool are the
I
best team in
can't
the
wait for
country right
that.
now.
Oh,
They're
Liverpool are
playing
great.
superb. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
playing superb right now. But that's going to be. We're going to give them. We're going to ask some questions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're going to get anything off them, but we'll ask some questions. But they're playing very well right now, and City, well, at the moment, are doing the unthinkable. They're having a bit of a struggle, but who
They are.
cares? We've all been there.
I really don't care about City right now. If they're struggling, fine by me. All right, Giannis, before we go to the second half of the show, let's talk about the starting 11. And I guess you could say it was predictable. Obviously, it worked. So give me your thoughts on the starting 11.
Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. I mean, Lukic is obviously out. The big one was going to be Harry Wilson. What was going to happen there? Good to see that Cess was on the bench, even though he had
Yeah.
zero chance of coming on, unless it was 8-0 with 20 minutes to go, and he'd give him a little bit of a run around. But no complaints. I'm just hoping, as I said, if this is the 11 that plays against Wolves, that we don't pick up any injuries during the international break.
Okay, Giannis, I agree with that. All right. Coming up next, Giannis and I will break down both halves and we'll end with man of the match. Okay, Giannis, let's now talk about the first half. And listen, I thought Fulham created a decent amount of opportunities in the first half. We'll stop on the goal. We'll come back to that, but I just want to get your analysis of the first half. We had opportunities from several players. Obviously, you have the couple, I believe, from Reece Nelson. So you have some good opportunities. What did you make of the first half leading up to the goal? We'll talk about the goals separately.
I thought we were very, very quick off the blocks. I thought we moved the ball very quickly. We moved very quickly. They tried their high press. It didn't seem to work. Their lineup was a little bit discombobulated. To be fair to them, in the last 10 minutes, I thought they came on a little bit more. The Palace fans started getting on their back, and you got a reaction from them. But overall, I mean, I thought we dominated the first half. I think probably Marco would have been disappointed at halftime going in without a lead. So it was nice that Smith Rowe got the goal when he did. Timing was perfect.
Okay, Giannis, so let's now go to the goal. And this is a type of goal. I think we'll see more goals like this because of the type of player that Smith Rowe is. But even before that, you saw all the play between Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson. And obviously, you got Jimenez involved in this situation, Jimenez and Smith Rowe. But this was really just a quality goal. This is what Smith Rowe has the capability of doing. And the timing, as we can imagine, was incredible being at the end of the first half. Talk about the goal.
Yeah, and a lot of credit goes to Jimenez for this goal. Even though the plaudits are going to go to Smith Rowe, it's a beautiful through ball. He's still got a lot of work to do. I think Henderson would like to have that goal back. But one
Got
thing
his hand on it.
Yeah, he got his hand on it. One thing that Smith Rowe is good at is shooting left to right. So he shoots across the body. I've always used to say to strikers, if you're going to do one thing, make the keeper move, make them move, make them have to dive. Don't smash it at 170 miles an hour straight out their head, because that's going to be easy to save. Make sure they've got to get their hands down on it. It was a nice goal, and the timing was perfect, because you could see that Marco was getting together with his staff before halftime, and he was a little unhappy. And it's probably along the lines, we had 65% possession. We created chances, but we hadn't scored any. And it could be one of those, daylight robbery games where Palace nick it. So it was important to get the lead, and I thought psychologically, once we got the lead, half time, I thought, that should be it. I really didn't see Palace coming back into it.
That's interesting, because I was going to ask you, what were you thinking at halftime? So you really believe that goal just changed everything,
Yeah.
and that it wasn't going to be a situation like we've seen, say, against West Ham or against recently Everton. You thought that we would get that second goal and win comfortably.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I really did. I thought we were too dominant. I just didn't. I didn't see enough of Palace in the first half. They didn't. They looked discombobulated, to be honest. Shape wasn't right. They seemed to be second every ball. Some rash challenges going in the first half. This is before the red card from Canada, and the goal went in before halftime, and I thought, you know what, I think we should be able to finish this off second half. And we have lost Russell. But if you're still listening to this, this is brought to you by Global Vision Color. It's 2024. If anybody's still on and you can hear me, send me a message there. Russ?
Okay, Giannis, I should be back.
Russ is back. Russ is back. Chris just said a frozen Russ.
Yeah, well, sometimes it happens with my internet connection, but if this happens again, Giannis, you just continue on, my friend. Let's now move on to the red card. Give me thoughts.
Oh my God, it was a double red. What a horrible challenge. What on earth was he thinking? A leg breaking challenge, potentially leg breaking challenge. Luckily, it didn't, but it was a terrible challenge, and deserved red. Palace, Glasner had no complaints in the post match. I don't think anyone can. The Palace fans can have no debates that it was most certainly a red.
Okay, excellent there, Giannis. All right, so let's now talk about at the very end of the match, because I thought Fulham were dominant. They didn't get the decision with Smith Rowe. We already talked about that. Let's now talk about Harry Wilson coming on and scoring again.
Pure confidence. I think before Monday he would have taken an extra touch. He took 2 touches. It was in the back of the net. Super finishing. He's I thought it was a very telling post-match interview after the game on Monday. He admitted his disappointment this season that he's not been starting. That he goes to Wales, the Wales camp. I mean, the Wales camp for him, for the international break for him, is brilliant, because he starts all the games for Wales. He plays 90 minutes. That's where he gets his minutes into his legs. So he's having a great time. But unfortunately, he's got players like Nelson and Traore that he's got to try and budge out of the way to make the lineup. So he's had limited opportunities. It was an inspiring substitution on Monday that led to the 2 goals. And that third goal, and it could have been a 4th goal as well. Now, the question is, do you ride your luck by keeping him as a super sub, or do you go the other way and give him a chance as a starter? I say you've got to. I say if it's not broken, don't fix it.
I agree, Giannis.
So keep him on the bench. He's still got a chance. Like for 2, I think Wales have 3 games coming up.
Yeah.
So he's going to get his plenty of minutes, and I know he's going to be disappointed, but it's a competitive team. Look, the very, very top teams have players that don't get a lot of playing time. Look at players like Smith Rowe and Nelson last year for Arsenal. I mean, Smith Rowe is a fixture now, a regular fixture. But you think, how does he get in? How does he get into a lineup ahead of, for example, Martinelli and Saka and Odegaard? It's very, very difficult. He's playing very, very well, and I can't wait to see what happens when he plays against Arsenal. But He just has to be patient, and it's a long season. We're going to get injuries.
Yep.
We're going to get suspensions. But Wilson's just going to have to be patient.
Right. And Chris has an ulterior motive here. If Wilson keeps scoring from the bench, then you start him because he's a Liverpool supporter. Stop
Uh,
it, Chris. You know what's better. You know he's better coming off the bench right now. Come on. Enough of that, Chris. I love you, though. All right. Now, let's talk about the second controversy here
the handball.
involving the ref here. So let's talk about this. I want to get your thoughts on this because we've been talking about situations like this all the time. This is not intentional, but it does hit his hand, Giannis. It's accidental. What do you make of the situation as Harry Wilson's goal was disallowed? So he obviously did not get a second goal here. What are your thoughts on it?
I don't like the call. It's the right call, but I don't like the call because at that speed, look, it's not. What happens if he's got no arms? Like, really, does it? Because what it's suggesting is, even if it's accidental, that had a say in terms of the movement direction.
It didn't at all.
It didn't at all. It doesn't make any sense. But it's the letter of the law. It has to be given as a handball. But again, it's good news in a sense, because that's the confidence he's got right now. It's the confidence he's going to take away when he goes off to the Welsh camp. It's the confidence hopefully he'll bring back from the Welsh camp as well. So that's good news. And who knows? Maybe Marco will spring a surprise against Wolves. Who knows? But right now, Adama Traore is not part of the Portuguese. He's Portuguese, right? The Portuguese.
No, he's Spanish.
Right. He's not part of the Spanish squad. And then Reece Nelson's not part of the England squad. So they're going to spend 2 weeks training with Marco. So really, that more or less seals the fact that he's going to be on the outside looking in for when we play Wolves.
Right. And this is what Chris just shared. The handball rule used to be deliberate handball. This is what football should go back to, Chris. I completely agree with you. This had no effect. His hand had no effect on the outcome here. But it's the letter of the rule, and it's the right call. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it doesn't make. Yeah,
it almost reminds me of. I hate to go there, and Chris is a Patriots fan. It reminds me of the tuck rule. It was the right decision, and it helped me tremendously. But if you look at it, it didn't make sense, and it benefited me for 20 years. So I'm happy about it.
Yes, I know.
But if I'm being honest, it was a fumble. I'm okay enough. Anyone that knows the history.
The Patriots won 6 Super Bowls. We just want to win one up on Buffalo. Just one. Just one. We're asking a lot. But
I know, Chris. I know, Giannis. I know.
We play the Chiefs next week, so that's Taylor Swift is going to be in town.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, Giannis.
Marvelous, yeah.
Great show, and we're going to end the show with Man of the Match. If you're watching live, feel free to share your thoughts on Man of the Match. I already said it's Iwobi, but I had someone tell me today, no, Russ, you're wrong. It has to be Smith Rowe. I also want to give a little bit of an honorable mention. We haven't even mentioned him. Jedi, I thought, was very good here. And I could just see, I mean, his pace is unbelievable, Giannis. Yeah. So what do you make of Man of the Match? Who's your Man of the Match?
I'm going to give it to Smith Rowe, but it was close between he and Iwobi and Jedi. I think Jedi deserves a Man of the Match just for that. I was looking at that card trick he did. You've probably seen that online.
Oh yeah.
That brilliant card trick, which I still scratch my head as to how the hell he ever did that. He's playing brilliantly at the moment. He and Nelson have got a good thing going on that left-hand side. That's a good triumvirate. And if there's anything I'd like to see when Nelson is pushing forward, when he's making those overlapping runs, I want to see Robinson involved even more. Let's look at what happened in the winning goal against the Bus Stop Boys.
Yeah.
So he can occasionally get a cross in that's going to do it, and it doesn't matter if it comes off your arse, it comes off your shoulder. Yeah, that's the main thing. But I thought Smith Rowe was instrumental yesterday, and another player is going to. Oh, by the way, just as a little thingy, I was just thinking about this. I was looking at the England squad, and Taylor Harwood-Bellis got a call up for the England team from Southampton.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, Lee Carsley, is he taking the piss or what? All of a sudden, is he just picking because he knows he's not going to be Tuchel's going to be the coach in a few weeks? He's picking. Let me just because because he's going to Floyd Ayes is going to get called up.
Oh,
But this
I
way,
knew you were going to bring
it's
up
going to
Florida.
be it's or Shania Luka, one of the two, one or two going to get because if you're picking a player who's playing for a team who's bottom of the Premier League, and I disagree with a lot of pundits. I think Southampton are rank poor. Why are you picking players playing for the bottom team in the division and put them in the national squad? No, I'm sorry, but anyway, Smith Rowe.
Smith Rowe. Okay, so Combe shares Iwobi, Smith Rowe, Robinson, unsigned hero Tete. Tete was very good too.
Tete was
Obviously, he took that really bad challenge and he continued to play on. So, same thing with Smith Rowe. There's some really tough challenges here, so I want to give Tete a little bit of a shout out as well. I'm glad that Combe mentioned that. And of course, Chris has to mention this. All praise the tuck roll. Thank you, Chris. And also, Chris mentions this man of the match, Russ Goldman, who will be celebrating a Fulham and Patriots win on the same weekend. It is the Goldman double. I haven't been able to say that very often lately. So
actually, Russ, I had the genetics triple because the Toronto Argonauts.
The Argos, okay.
The Argos won their actually mixed blessings. They won their CFL Eastern final yesterday. So we got the Grey Cup next Sunday against Winnipeg,
fantastic.
Which is our Super Bowl. The negative, and this is for the Buffalo fans actually, is that our quarterback got injured, Chad Kelly. Chad Kelly is the nephew of Jim Kelly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's our starting quarterback, and he broke his leg yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. So now it's going to be the second string quarterback coming in against a Winnipeg team who are it's their fifth Grey Cup appearance in the year. Yeah, and just for everybody over in the UK, the most watched sporting event every year in Canada is the Grey Cup.
Yeah,
it's not the Super Bowl.
That's great, though.
It's not the Super Bowl. It's the Grey Cup because it's a uniquely Canadian league and Grey Cup CFL games are great fun to go and watch. They truly are. Tickets are reasonably inexpensive as well. But so Fulham won, of course. The Argos got through the Grey Cup, and the Bills knocked off those pesky Colts.
They did, Giannis. I want to mention this to you in case you did not know this. I actually lived near two Grey Cup winners in the past. The Fluties.
Darren and Doug. Darren and Dougie. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So they don't live that far from me. They grew up in Natick, Massachusetts. I grew up next door in Framingham, Massachusetts. And I actually played very briefly against Darren Flutie. So that is a crazy little stat there for you, a little interesting thing. Darren Flutie.
Darren won three Grey Cups, two with Calgary, one with Hamilton, and Dougie won, I think it's 6.
Yeah, he won a bunch.
2 with the Argos.
Yeah.
And they're both Hall of Famers, CFL Hall of Famers.
That's great. That's great. That's great.
Great footballers.
All right, Giannis. Before we wrap up this show and as we go into international break, where do you see Fulham right now? How do you see them pushing forward? I've been making the argument with Tony Gold that if they win the next 2 matches, obviously including the last match against Crystal Palace, they beat Wolves, we are a serious contender for Europe. I think we are right now, Giannis. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's lots of teams, right? I mean, you got Brighton, you got Newcastle, you got I will say Bournemouth. You've got that lot up the road. You got we're above Villa, we're above Tottenham, we're above United.
Newcastle.
There's a huge. This is a really weird start to the year because there's an absolute slew of teams as a chasing pack, and then you've got the bottom fodders, so to speak. Wolves, Palace are now in the bottom 3, and of course Southampton. I still think we're mid-table, but I do think a win against Wolves would be humongous because then it means we go to Tottenham Stadium. And we could be in the top 4.
That's crazy.
If we're in the top 4, we're going to go there and have a go.
Yeah, I totally agree, Giannis. Why not? I'm there with you, Giannis. And then as Chris is watching a little bit down the road, are going to be playing Liverpool. We still have to play Arsenal. And, of course, we have to play at Stamford Bridge. Could this be the year, Giannis? Could this be the year
I
that
wonder.
they actually beat that other club in Fulham at Stamford Bridge? I think it might be. I'm waiting patiently for that victory. I think this might be the year, but we shall see.
Should be
Giannis,
terrific.
thank you so much for doing this show. I hope you enjoyed it.
Pleasure as always, Russ. Pleasure as always. Been
Okay.
a super show.
It really has been. I always enjoy doing it with you. Max, unfortunately, could not join us. He's on the West Coast of the United States, but we will be back together in a few weeks' time to do a show, the three of us. We always enjoy doing it as the three of us. I love it, and I'm sure Giannis does as well. I know Max does. So we'll get all back together again. We'll get the gang all back together again. But we are going to wrap this up. For Giannis Shenanigans, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.